Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. So today we have Bryan Wish, who is live from his car. Looks like he has some nice leather there. I like the color of that leather. What would you call that, Bryan?
I'll call it my grandma's 2004 Chrysler Sebring leather, and it's not that comfortable. I can tell you that.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know Bryan, he believes in creating communities and amplifying voices for global impact visionaries. For years, he's used his abilities to discover and foster growth opportunities behind a lot of professional sports franchises, global investment funds, authors, CEOs, and visionaries, turning their vision into tangible results. Just a few, I'm going to hawk a few of his achievements here. He has upped the market for the Atlanta Hawks and the Atlantic Braves, creating segmented markets and sales programs that have done more than $300,000 in sales to date. He's curated over 800 plus impactful stories, which have been read by more than 500,000 readers on the Wish Dish. That's a great name, by the way, the Wish Dish.
Thank you.
From 2016 and 2017, he helped establish a foundational community of entrepreneurs that was featured in Inc., Forbes, and Wired magazines. It's called the Kairos Society. And he does so much. He's created the Creative Curves, which is also selling thousands of copies.
I didn't create it. I didn't write it. That was Alan who wrote it.
That was Alan. That's true. That was Alan that wrote it, but he helped sell thousands of copies of that book. So welcome, Bryan. I'm really excited to talk to you today about creating communities.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you thinking of me for your show, and I'm happy to maybe give some insights to your audience about how to create an audience and whatever I can do to help. So pleasure.
Great. Thank you. So Bryan and I talked before the show, so he kind of knows that authors bring me books all the time. And they've gone out to those business workshops where people say, well, you're not selling your products and services because you don't have a book. And that's not the magic bullet, is it?
No, it's definitely not the magic bullet.
So tell us a little bit about what they need before they get into launching those products.
Yeah, absolutely. I think whether it's a new website, a new physical product, a book, I think launching a product is all very similar in how it's done. I wrote an article on my blog it's called Launching a Tech Company and Book Aren't Any Different in Theory. And what I mean by that is the process of what goes into it is very similar. And I think what a lot of first-time authors or entrepreneurs do, and I'm guilty of this, is they come up with an idea, they take it and they say, oh, this is great. Let me just get something out there, hope it works. And then they spend all this money and time, and they realize a year and a half later, one, they're not making money, and two, no one really understands what they're doing. And it's because they didn't spend the time on the front end to launch it properly, build the brand behind it, build the audience, the content, all the pieces that go into it. So when you do launch something, people are like, oh yeah, I get that.
Yes, I would completely agree with that. And then they moved on to the next product, rinse and repeat the same failed formula.
Yes, correct. I mean, it's a market. I don't even look at it as sales formulas. I look at it as marketing strategies, and market is good inputs, marketing equals good outputs, sales. And so I think selling is really easy if you understand marketing. And I think a lot of companies, even tech companies, overinvest in having SDRs and sales reps and all these things, and they don't even have product market fit yet. And that's like an author trying to sell a book without having a pre-built community, content, and things that go into it to make people buy it. And they only sell a couple hundred books to family and friends, and then they don't hit scale because they don't understand what goes in, what goes into this. So.
Exactly. So what are some key things that you find are helpful in building a community?
I think it really starts with understanding who your audience is, right? So even before you build a community, what are you selling or what are you trying to share with the world, and understanding the market. It's almost like a startup doing market research and discovery, understanding the 2 or 3 archetypes, the types of people who really want what you have. And you can dive and understand those key components. So when you launch a product or a book, you can create messaging, you can create content, you can reach out to people that just what you say, they're going to be interested in, because you've already identified the types of people and their core characteristics that are going to make them really interested, or at least aware of what you're doing, and have them maybe start to pay attention to it. So there's not maybe a step, but I think it's a framework that needs to be thought about before you get really tactical.
Okay. And what about validating an audience? Because that is what I find the most is they'll do what you just talked about. They'll do that reach out, but they don't get the feedback that would really help them make it successful.
Yeah, I think it's just activating an audience is all about the follow-up. It's about being, I think, super just. So for the Hawks and the Brace project, so let's just dive into a good story there. I saw a big market opportunity. I saw the Hawks game at junior year of college. I was setting up a speaker series for an intern there the summer before, and I saw the entire upper arena. It was completely empty. And I looked at the arena and I said, how come there are not thousands of college kids here? This is a huge revenue opportunity they're missing. Okay. And I went to their head of sales and marketing and I said, do you guys market to college students? And it was no. And I said, how come? And he said, because there's heavy transition. I said, okay, I think I can do it and put a system in place where when I leave, you can have this thing for the rest of, the Hawks organizational franchise. The hardest part about getting that set up was finding the audience. I said, who would the audience be? Well, it's probably going to be Greek leaders, because they already have groups of 2 or 3 or 400 or 500 people for date night. Well, then I said, how do I actually get them to do it instead of going to a monster truck event at the Falcon Stadium, right? And it was, okay, how do you align the Hawks with their philanthropy? So then I got the philanthropy chairs involved. And I said, okay, we're going to do a $5 kickback for every ticket that we sell. By you coming to a game, we're going to raise thousands of dollars for your charity. And it worked it sold like hotcakes. But what happened from A to B, like the mushy middle, was me following up on Facebook and stalking down every Greek leader or social club leader 3, 4, 5, 6 times to build out my spreadsheets at 7 or 8 different schools. But once I had the foundation and I understood it, then I put ambassadors on every campus, and I connected the ambassadors and I gave them value props so that they would work for free, and they connected them as a sales rep. And I was like the liaison. So I took a split or a spread of every ticket sold. And I kind of gave myself a nice room to go build my next company after college. And what I'm getting at is activating an audience. I think first you need to identify it, then you need to reach out. But you need to be super clear with them, why it's valuable. And you need to be super rigid on the follow-up. And for us, what really did it was the philanthropy thing. We had to test messaging. We had to figure out what they wanted. And what I also did, once I started honing in on this, I did a focus group on campus as a senior in college, and I invited all the Greek leaders, and the Hawks paid for it, and I had pizza. And basically, I just asked them a ton of questions. What would make you do this? What would be valuable about it? I literally let them tell me how to design the program. And so what I'm getting at is when you build a community, you can't just strap a community formula on any group of people, because people are going to have different desires, different motives, different interests. And you need to understand what they want and design around them. And then you just use the tools. I think a lot of people, what they do is they take a community formula that they know and they try and slap it on to a pre-existing audience. What they need to do is identify the community, understand what they want, and then design a program around them that's going to make them super excited. So let's take this for our offers. You want me to keep going?
So yeah. No. Can I jump in here for a minute? I want to point out something that you said that was so key. Back when I was in advertising, we used to do focus groups. And I think with digital marketing, people don't get, you can still do those types of things. Now, back then we used to walk up to people in the mall and ask them to go in a back room and have, diet soda and M&Ms and view things. Couldn't do that now without getting arrested, but that doesn't mean you can't still set up a focus group and get feedback, because you're exactly right about that. The way that you do that and have them tell you what they want.
Right. And I think the best way to do it is you do like 8 to 15 one-on-one interviews, and you start hearing the same things over and over again. So you have an idea of the program design. And then what you do is you bring a focus group together of all these people you've interviewed or new people in a similar audience, and you ask some probing questions around how they design it. Because you already have context to, like, the design to activate the group. So if you ask probing questions, they'll tell you more info. And if you make it aligned with their values and what they want and their desires, they'll tell you how to do it. And that way you can design something for an audience that they want, opposed to just designing something that they're not going to jump on board to.
Very, very, yeah, so true. So what about for authors? Because that's
Yeah.
something that these guys just don't. They write the book, but they don't ask anybody in advance like what they want to read.
Yeah, so this is, I think, a great strategy. So I can't really go into all the specifics because I don't want to get my author friends in trouble, but I'll say this. So if you sell a book, so let's let me put it like this. Think of selling a book like a funnel. It's not just about the book sale. It's about getting the review. It's about getting your team to share about it, right? So if I'm an author, I know my message skills and I have a community around me and I have great content. Community and content equal message spreading is done with like very clear intent. So if I'm an author, what I would do is think about, okay, who are 200 or 300 people I can sell this book to? Okay. So you sell them the book, they say yes, you get their Amazon receipt or confirmation that they did it, and you follow up with them and say, thank you so much for your support. I would love to have you part of my launch community. And they fill out the form and they basically say, okay, I want to be a part of this group. And then you take that and then you feed them content, you give them valuable resources, understand what they want. And then when you want to get a social media post out to drive more sales, or you want to spread something about the book, you already have a community in front of you who not only bought your book, but wants to help you launch it because they feel like they belong to something of a higher purpose and that they can be a part of something that they just can't in their everyday lives. And then they help you get it out there. Oh, and then by the way, you actually have a list where you can follow up with these people. And you say, hey, come review my book. Sure. Thanks for all you're doing in the message. It's really great. Because people just want to feel part of things. That's like another piece of all this. It's like, as a society, we fundamentally lack like the ability to belong, to be a part of things, because creativity is very hard. And so if people says, here's the creativity and the golden platter, come be a part of something that's meaningful to you, a lot of people jump at that because they believe in things and want to join things. So if you give them the platter to activate them on, that they feel like they're pushing out a good message, even if it's not their own, and then they're going to meet people through it, get exclusive content, webinars, links like written about in the back of the book, and there's very value-added additions, then you can really build a very small group of people and start it at 100 or 200 and then build on it just by putting in the right framework to get them really excited about the message of your book.
So true. And you can do all that in advance. One of the things I was telling you is most people that bring us a book that haven't worked with us before have products and services that aren't selling too. So this feedback loop you're talking about, and that's basically what a community is a feedback loop, is invaluable in that money-making process, that revenue generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what else can you tell us about like digital relationships? I think that's where a lot of people are getting stuck.
Yeah, I think we also live in a very kind of peak first society, and authors love to come out of the woodwork. Oh, I have a book, buy it. And I think there's a fundamental flaw in, or let's just say anything, right? I think in this day and age, in 2019, going into 2020, you can't just launch a product without prepping at all for it. You can't just put it in the newspapers and have people buy it. You have to spend years building an audience, building a platform, and getting people like actually caring about what you're doing, building rapport, building good face value, letting people know you're not a scam artist, and coming out and let me just run up a bunch of Facebook ads and hack the system, because like the short-term game doesn't work in the long run. So what I'm getting at is, if I'm building digital relationships, I'm being very authentic. I'm reaching out to people with intentionality. I'm giving value first. I'm connecting them to people in my network. I'm writing content, asking them to subscribe to things so I can give them more really good content so they can be like, oh, wow, like this person's consistent, they're valuable, they're resourceful, and they actually have a lot of really interesting things to share. And they actually care about me and not about what I'm going to buy from them. And like, right, if you launch a product or a book, or you can use those digital relationships not like in a malicious way, but in a way to help amplify the thing that you really care about. But I think it takes a lot of upfront effort and work and care for the person on the other side of the screen or the coffee table when you actually meet that person in person, right? Um, to get them to kind of do what you want them to do, but it takes a lot of years and it takes a lot of time, and people don't always. Um, people know, I think, are intuitive enough, especially our generation, to know if they're feeling scammed. And they don't buy into that. And I think being as genuine and authentic and real as possible is the best way to do it long term.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. And just for those of you guys, one of the things he just said is about the Facebook ads. You see all these people running Facebook ads. Facebook ads are cold traffic. They
Right.
don't know you from any of the other 50 million people out there running Facebook ads that they don't know. So it's not really the name recognition that you're looking for. Those relationships that Bryan are talking about is warm. They're warm. They're, and warm and hot traffic because you're actually having conversations with them. Clicks aren't conversations.
Right. Exactly. And I think Facebook ads are okay if you have a product that people know about and you're just kind of adding fuel to the fire. But I think people look at ads in general as this like, okay, I'm just going to dump thousands of ads on this and it's all going to work. But it's a very short term play. And if you don't have product market fit yet, I think you're throwing money down the drain when you can invest that time and money into maybe resources or even like placements that actually will drive real traffic. So I just am not a fan of ton of digital ads on these social platforms myself.
Yeah, I'm not a big proponent of them either. I think too many people have spent a whole lot of money on digital ads that don't work. And I see even with some of the groups I'm in on Facebook that people will complain, like, why am I seeing so many ads from coaches right now? Like,
Right.
how do I mute them?
Right. And I mean, I think this lends itself to a bigger conversation and we don't need to go there, but I think the future of digital networks and social networks is building digital communities where brands have access to the community, not through ads, traditional ads, but through research, through, accessing people at very specific and curated points in their life. And there's certain platforms out there like the Mighty that do this really well, and that don't, spam their platform. And so I don't see Facebook lasting 10, 15, 20 years the way it does today. It's going to have to drastically change. And, I think as authors or as entrepreneurs, we need to figure out how to leverage these platforms as they come and go to our advantage in a way that's real, authentic, and genuine. And the last thing I'll say is email is the only thing we have right now where we own our distribution. And I think the best authors that you see really hitting the charts are the ones who have built email lists in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and using these digital platforms to build email relationships, because you can plug lists into these platforms, but you can't take emails off of these platforms. So I think that is a very, very kind of long-term strategy. That one that I'm working on every day. So just some 2 cents that I've gleaned over the last few years.
No, but so true, because those people who are making the bestseller lists, the real ones, not the Amazon, but the Wall Street Journal, the USA Today, the New York Times, those are people who are leveraging large lists and have nurtured those people and written the book that email list wants because they're in contact with those people. So I think it's absolutely true, but it's not instant gratification. It's not going to
Right.
happen like in 3
No,
months. So you've got to start way out in advance. So if we want to know more about you, where can we find you, Bryan, besides in your car?
Well, my car is not a great place. I need to get another one. But getting just, I'm also not like a material kind of guy, so this works. Anyways, you can find me at bwmissions.com. That is where our website and home base is. I also am on LinkedIn, just Bryan, B-R-Y, that's with a Y-A-N, last name's Wish. And that's on LinkedIn. And then on Twitter or on Instagram, it's Bryan Wish with an underscore. And then I'm just starting to get into Twitter. So yeah, I don't know what my domain is. But that I'm pretty social. I'm active. I'll get back to you. I like talking to people and happy to help your audience.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It was great having you today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.